the Western world is not what it seems. You know, just that's just a fact. So
Well, hello, my people. This is your host, StemToRoots, where we plan to talk our way into a plan. And this morning, actually, we're recording in the morning. I have somebody special that is joining us today for so many reasons. This conversation is important, and you'll figure out why. Because it's him. I'm not going to introduce him. I'll let him do that. Let the people know who you are.
that's a that's a difficult one. But anyways, my name is Njie, born and raised in the Gambia. It's the smallest country in Africa, we would say.
Mm-hmm.
Called the Smiling Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Go check it out. But I was fortunate enough to be raised in a household that nowadays it's very rare to have like both parents in the household, right? So I was fortunate to have that and loving sisters. My passion, obviously, from childhood was sports, and that got me into the profession that I am in right now, which is strength and conditioning, and as a coach, right? I currently reside in the U.S. And have been stuck with this guy over here for all my adulthood years. Fun fact about me would be I love music and I love to dance. And I think as long as I have my limbs intact, I'm not stopping anytime soon.
It's something you keep doing.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
It's music. Music is life to the soul, I say.
Right.
Keeps us vibrant, keeps us alive. Yeah.
There's a lot about you, or there's a lot to you.
Yeah. Anything else that you?
No. I'll definitely.
You'll have to ask.
For the sake of this podcast, for the sake of this conversation, I'll keep it centered around, what's relevant to this. And so I'll talk about your profession. I'll talk about where you come from. I'll talk about your life here in this country, this adopted country of yours, the United States of America. And I think where I want to start is, when did you leave the Gambia, to come to the US?
Well, it wasn't a direct route, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I left the Gambia, I believe, in 2002, and came to Senegal, right? And that's where we met. I went to school there, and then transferred to the US in 2004. So,
right. So I'll give this conversation context based on that, right?
Yes.
So we met in Dakar in 2002, right?
Yeah.
So I was there a year before you. We met in 2002, and we've known each other since. And so this will come from our conversation, and so let me talk about it now. So we've known each other that long. You were the best man at my marriage, and you are my first son's godfather. So let's make that clear so that listeners will know through this conversation, without even thinking about it, there'll be things that I will say that I know about you that should not be surprising. So you've been here in the United States of America. I mean, we came here the same day since 2004, and I was thinking about it.
Same flight.
That's true. To put that in context, if you were to have a kid when we just got here, they'll be going to college right now.
Yeah.
Dude, that's how long it's been. Okay. So about 18 years of our lives, unfortunately for you, I'm not going to be talking about mine. This is about you. So 18 years of your life here in the US. So that means your entire professional career you've given to the US.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I don't know if there's biasness here, but for what you do is so valuable, and meaning you've given so much to this country. Let's start with what you do right now currently. What do you do?
Well, so right now I'm a strength and conditioning coach, right? Specialized in functional movement. So I train athletes, also personal trainer. So I also train the general public. The difference between the two is strength and conditioning coaches deal with athletes, and personal trainers deal with the general public and athletes. So there's a place where they cross, right? And coaches are coming down, training also the general public, because the knowledge is that we're all athletes in a certain way, right? Some get to be professional athletes, but in general, as the way the human body is, we're technically all athletes. So it's good to be trained in functional movements, and that keeps us, mobile and keeps us alive, keeps us healthy.
And that's what you do. And what's the nutritional aspect to it? Because I know you dabble into that too.
Yeah, so the nutritional aspect to that, obviously there's this move on this whole vegan movement, right? But my transition started in 2018. So mine is more so of what assimilates with our body, okay, which is fruits and plants. So I try to kind of mentor that into my clients and the athletes themselves, even though it's quite a challenge when it comes to turning people's mind to something that has been programmed from childhood, from birth to now, having to accept that. For me, it was hard. It was hard to accept at first, but because I was ready for that type of information, it was easily reciprocated, right? It was easy for me to absorb that and just move on and understand, hey, this is not the way to go. And it's a process.
And when you say it's not a way to go, we're talking about the health aspects of food. What we consume, what we put in our bodies. And you from 2018 till now, you've studied this. I wouldn't call it experimented, because these are human beings. But you started with yourself.
You
started on yourself, and you've helped a lot of people that have seen change through what they consume, right? And the reason why I'm talking about all of that is, you've studied all of this. You've linked your personal training and strength and conditioning, and being an athlete and nutrition and food, and marry all of those things together. You've built a wealth of knowledge that could be very, very useful to, your adopted country and your home country. But, for many reasons, you've been here in the US all your professional career. How does that sit in your mind, like when you think about it? Or let me first say, I don't wanna assume that you're thinking about this. I'm gonna ask you, is that something that comes in mind?
100%. Every time.
And how do you think about it?
Thinking about giving back. That's my home country. That's my homeland, That's where I grew up, and charity begins at home.
Right.
So for me, I live and die by that. There was a point, obviously, I couldn't give back. I had to work on self, right? So now that we're in the position of being able to give back and help a lot of people, I'm more than willing to do so. I'm more than willing to do so, because growing up as an athlete, the talent was there, and we know Gambia and Africa is full of talent. Raw talent is just there. It's just the way we lived. The way we grew up. Playing was about jumping and running. Not knowing that these are all fast twitch fiber muscles. You go to the east coast of Africa with Kenya and them. They're running to school. They're running back. They're at a high altitude. All of that builds up the slow twitch fiber muscles where, they're good at long distance.
over time.
And
Yeah.
and yeah, and that's how it is, right? So the West Coast we're more explosive, you
Mm.
know, and that's just what it is. So
Yeah.
growing up, not having a coach around, not
Mhm.
knowing what to do, how to do things, you
And,
know.
and that's where I want to pin things, right? So now
Right.
I want to go back. So you've been fortunate enough to see the difference between having a coach and having somebody, who is teaching you not only, the fundamentals of any sport that pays for somebody's living right now, has a
Hmm.
foundation.
Yeah.
The importance of having somebody groom you, to somebody is coaching you in actually how you treat your body. So because you've been an athlete forever, so in Gambia you played volleyball up to professional level, moved to Dakar, and you were a professional in Dakar playing volleyball, at the highest level in Senegal. And take us back to the days that you were an athlete, and if now the knowledge you know right now, if you knew it then, where you think you could have used the knowledge you know now.
Oh my God, man. I would have
Mm-hmm.
I don't use that to just help everybody around, because yes, there were a lot of determined people, around
Mm-hmm.
us that were coaching. Some really had the knowledge between when it came to the sport itself.
Mm-hmm.
Volleyball, especially in Senegal, right? Well, because that's where I played the longest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, at a high level. So, but the nutrition part was lacking,
Yes.
and that was key, man. That was key. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the strength and conditioning part too was lacking. Like we'll do some runs, and most of the time we'll focus on techniques and stuff like that when it came to the to playing the game
Mm-hmm.
and the plays, of course. But then what we do in the gym, most of us, from what I know, I had a neighbor when I lived in Kotu, right, in Gambia, that had a home gym, and he kind of trained me, kind of pulled me in to start training with him. That was
Mm-hmm.
after high school.
Mm-hmm.
So the knowledge, the little knowledge I had from him is what I was using
Mm-hmm.
during that time,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it got me strong, but I was training like a bodybuilder.
I see.
See what I'm
See.
saying?
Yeah.
Versus an athlete. These two things are very different. And most of the world, the average person trains like a bodybuilder for aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
That's where that whole this thing about athletes or actually soccer players should not be in the gym. You know, that's old school way of thinking. And had we known then, we were going to the gym, but we didn't know how to train. So we're splitting body parts and doing the whole 9 yards. But
Right.
by the way, shout out to Keba Joe Kotu, man. Thank you, because you
Thanks for
you
that
brought something
mention.
to me, and
And,
that's where I'm at right now. So I really
and,
want to.
and, and this is why I took you all the way back there, right? Where, today, as we speak, there's a talented, this is guaranteed, there's a talented athlete, all rounded. You're a prime example. There's so many sports that you've played that you excelled in, track and field, volleyball, soccer. You've done all of basketball, you've done all of these things, and any one of those you could have been a professional in, right? With the right foundation, guidance, and all of that. So there's somebody right now at home who has all that talent, doesn't have help like this, all right? And here's where I'm bringing this to you right now as a professional, being here, wanting to actually contribute and help, knowing all of this knowledge now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about all the reasons that we can think about or that come to us right now about why it's a challenge after all these years of building up to where you are right now, away from home, why it's a challenge to just, pack up and leave.
Yeah, most of it has to do with finances per se. Okay, because that's a huge factor. Let's just face that. especially in my line of work, right? Now, picking up and leaving, now there's a possibility of not picking up, leaving, and just settling back home, right? There's that thing of being here and being there, not at the same time, but almost at the same time because of technology.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. So it's really because of the way things are set up back home, especially in the Gambia. In my line of work, it'll be highly impossible to just pick up, go, and just stay.
Mm-hmm.
I know some people have done it, but with where I'm at right now,
Mm-hmm.
with the clientele I have now,
Mm-hmm.
with where the route I want to go
Yes.
with this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just at the beginning. So I can't pick up and leave. What I
Very
can
good.
do, what I can do is at this point, I am somewhat stable enough to extend an arm and start building with people back home.
I hear you.
And whilst I focus on here, I can still transfer knowledge and
Yes.
push things back home, and then the growth will happen from there. Yeah.
And that's what I want to touch on, right? You've mentioned two reasons already that I jotted down. The financial aspect, so the economic aspect. It's important to you that financially you're strong enough to be able to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
And that's just the professional part.
Right.
The most relevant part is that you have to live, right? So if your services, if what you give has to be compensated, so that you live, do you think about where you have to have those economic benefits in order to be able to take care of yourself and your family?
Yeah, self and family. There's no better reward than helping your people.
Obviously.
Higher reward. Yeah. So at some point we'll do it.
Right.
At some point, but right now we're going to move towards that because we are in that position right now. Before we weren't.
Get it?
And you can only you have to help yourself in order to be able to help other people. Now that doesn't mean you got to be selfish. We were raised in a certain way to be able to help when you can.
Absolutely.
And now I can. So yeah.
And the second point, what I wrote down is infrastructure, how things are set up, right?
Yeah.
For what you do, there's so much importance to being able to access everything all the tools you need, to be able to help at a high level.
Yeah.
So we happen to come from a place that it is how it is right now.
Yeah.
Comparing the two, I feel like you've known enough now to know what is necessary for you to fully do what you want to do. Do you think about where you come from, how infrastructure is set up, how access is laid out? Do you think about how you will take away from maximizing what you can give as far as the individual or the client that you're working with?
I think it's a question of being able to have all the equipment at hand there, which I don't think it's a problem now because everything can be shipped home, right? Now it's a matter of the mindset of those particular people, whether they're ready to do the work. And obviously everything costs money, but nonetheless, it's an investment to my people. So if I have investment and it'll work out somehow, because that's the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
To give
Yeah.
back and see the country grow as a whole, or
Yeah.
the athletes in them, or the general population as a whole,
But
not even just the
you know
athletes.
those things are lacking. Do you? Is it? Is
Absolutely, those things are lacking because we've stopped moving.
mm,
And when I was growing up, I don't know about now, maybe it's changed, but I don't think it has. Um, you know, as soon as you hit around 24, 25,
mm-hmm.
that whole, oh, I'm too old for this kicks in.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It's
you're
true.
25 years old. What are you too old for? To move? No responsibility start kicking in, but your first responsibility is your health. We keep eating the way we eat, but we don't want to move no more because we feel like we've passed that. When over here, it's when the kids, they don't move, but once they start hitting that age, 25, 30,
Yeah.
wake up call.
Yo,
Hey,
I gotta
you
go
got to
to the
change your
gym.
lifestyle. You got to do A,
Yes.
B, and C.
Yes.
We were gifted from birth. We have it. The foundations are there. Here, you have to build the foundation for them. Over there, we don't have to, because the whole entire, well, everything around us evolved around just moving. Everything was just about movement,
Right.
right?
Right.
From I'm getting water, a bucket of water from the tap down the street.
Yeah.
You're picking that up, you're putting it on top of your head, or you're holding it. These
Yes.
things,
Yes.
you're either, that's just balance. From there,
Yes.
core
Yes.
strength, forearm strength, like you're holding these things, you're walking for like, 200, 300 meters to the house.
Yeah.
We teach
Yeah.
these things and they're called a farmer's walk. What are you talking about? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
No.
these are things,
Okay.
yeah. You
I
see
see.
these
So I see
movements.
where you're taking me. I see where you're taking me, and I'm gonna point this out, right? So
Right.
what you're talking about is, you're here now. You're learning all of these things, right? You're pinpointing things that are important and necessary right now to teach, right? And to make our people aware of in your professional in your field, and it will take like some sort of mindset shift, and that is hard to teach, right? And for you, the way I'm thinking about it right now is, on top of infrastructure, what I asked about in the beginning, you're also thinking about, there's a lot of knowledge I have right now that in teaching that requires change up to a certain level. And so there's additional challenge on top of being able to provide, the infrastructure, the material you need, the tools you need, and also the mindset, because it's harder to actually change up here than, just grab a deadlift and, work on a muscle. So that's an additional challenge that you have because of knowledge that you've gained. So and here's where this is taking me. The reason why you're passionate about this, and it's not a question because I've heard you talk about this a lot, is the health aspect. So yeah, we sit here and we hear about friends and family at home that are going through this, that, and the other, and you, from your profession, you think about it like, oh man, how this person could have tried or used such and such herb, and make use of our food, and
Yeah.
and 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 take more walks and be more playful in moving their body, because being more playful in moving their body, there's benefit to that. And then you were talking about, how, at a certain age, it's almost stigmatized to like play, right? And so a lot of people will just sit around and say, no, I'm too old for that. That running around and, like, it's almost odd to see somebody like an old, like, I will be shocked, like, say somebody at my dad's age, getting, wearing their trainers and hitting the road, going running. It's almost odd to see at home, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, what is he doing? Right?
Right.
So all that shift that needs to be done is something that's all on your plate, as far as something you need to package in presenting back home. And that's what I picked from what you were saying.
Right.
Is that accurate?
Well, what's funny is that our parents used to do that.
Mm.
Yeah, at least some of them. Right. You go to Senegal, you're doing that. Why can't we do it? You saw when we lived in Senegal how things were.
Yeah.
They were real women and men way more active than in the Gambia. Why is that? We're the same. It's the same people, same culture, same everything. The colonies were just different. Colonizers were just different. We're not different. We're not different. So whatever they do, we should be able to do 10 times that, especially when we know, we're the same. There's nothing they can do that we can't do. We just got to change our mindset. And I really don't know where that mentality came from. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I mentioned it. Where this is something you think about, and you're over here. This is where this is taking me now. Like, as I think about you as a professional over here in the US, Gambia, your home country, Africa, that entire continent. Think about just people around you, like, other people from Gambia or from Africa that you've worked with because you've played soccer, you were in college and stuff. What do you hear from other people as far as why, they're in the US, sometimes, any other country that's outside of the continent, longer than they actually would have wanted? What are some of the reasons that you hear?
Obviously, it's the whole aspect of building, what I mentioned, financial stability.
Financial stability.
So economic reasons are always a part, but there have also been people that have picked up and gone back home, and started doing whatever it is that they wanted to do and building. It's a tough process. I give kudos to them, but they were in the position to do so, and I think every single person that's in the position to do so, whatever way you can contribute, they are doing that. And for me now, it's time. So with all the obstacles, I don't look at it as a problem. I just look at it as an obstacle. And that's the beauty in teaching. And because when somebody's not receptive to the message that you're giving out and eventually absorbs that, the satisfaction in it is amazing. So for my people, whatever it is that I'm trying to bring in, I'm sure a lot of people will look at me sideways, but eventually they'll know it's to their own benefit. You touched a little bit on the herbs. I didn't want to go there, but a lot of our friends, we have relatives that have passed away due to failure and stuff like that. Which simple things of just knowing what to touch, what not to touch. I myself have gone through it. So and still going through it. So it's part of the process, and I'll be more than able to bring that knowledge back. And anybody that wants to, make use of that, it's to your own benefit. And we've seen it time and time over again, not just for health reasons, but to enhance performance as well. We're electrical beings, so we can't keep on consuming things that don't align or assimilate with our body.
That's what you're mentioning. Is definitely something, an additional aspect to add to that package that you want to present. And I'm sure, and I know you're thinking about how to best present that to the people that you want to help back home. This is the perfect time. We're halfway through already. This is when the conversation is really good. You don't even know time is flying by. Halfway through, we have a tradition here at StemToRoots where because I, the host, and my people, the listeners, love to learn. So everybody that we get here
Yeah,
will
we
take
all have
advantage
them.
of
Yeah.
learning at least one thing on top of,
Mhm.
in addition to everything that we're talking about, but
Yeah.
something specifically chosen to teach. So here's how we play. You tell me something you think I don't know. If I know it, I'll tell you, dude, I know that. Come on, that's easy. And then you'll have to think about something else. If I don't know it, I'll admit to it, and I will learn, and my listeners also will learn from it. All right?
All
Can
right.
you
I love that. I bet you didn't know what Africa, the name of Africa before Africa, what it was called.
All right, all right. You Africa before Africa? Africa has always been Africa, no?
No, there was a name. It had its own name before it was given the name Africa by the Greeks.
Dude, teach me and my people something.
Okay, so the name was Alkebulan. It basically means the mother of mankind. Sometimes the Garden of Eden. But yeah, back in the 17th
Wow.
century, before the 17th century,
Wow.
Sheikh Anta Job wrote about it as well. Yeah. So
Dude,
here we go.
I hear a lot about everybody, the entire mankind coming from Africa.
Yeah.
So that name you just mentioned makes sense. Like it's ringing in my head. Like I hear it from people that I listen to, from books that I read,
Yeah.
from interviews that I listen to. They talk about,
Absolutely.
hey, we're all from Africa. We're all from Africa. And so for you to say that, and that's the meaning of it, it makes so much sense. Especially the Garden of Eden part.
Yeah.
Wow. All right, dude, thank you for that lesson. Or where I want to go next is critical. I don't want to. I cringe to even talk about it because it's there's a lot of division when it comes to that. That's the political aspect of where you come from specifically, but the continent as a whole. And I want to clarify that most of the things we'll talk about now will be general, right? Not specific, but general. The political aspect of our birth country and our continent. How does that, the instability, let me call it that. How does that contribute to your calculation when it comes to, as an individual, where you choose to live long term or start your family or have that financial stability and stuff like that? How do you even think about that?
Yes and no. Political stability, it's everywhere. Politics everywhere is politics everywhere. It's the same. It's been like that for years. What Africa is going through right now, it's just because the Western world have gone through it already, and somewhat now it's the corruption is still there, but it's kind of hidden, right? And ours, unfortunately, it's right out there. In the open.
It's in your face.
And I think, and I think it's up to our leaders to understand, like, this is not short term anymore. They got to start thinking long term. Whatever they do during the terms that they're in power, it's detrimental. It takes away, it's robbing from our kids, and from us per se. So it's one of those things where the sooner we get our minds together, and that includes all of us out here trying to figure out how to put something back in there to stabilize, to help.
Yes.
It's not an easy process, but for long term. So for me, it's I think about it, but not too much, because anything can happen at any given point in time. So the most important thing here is being able to offer a service that my people can benefit from without me digging myself a hole.
I hear you.
That's where I'm at a crossroads with. And I'm doing everything in my power to make sure that I'm in a position to be able to help and,
So,
get them to the next level where I can do that without even having to take from them.
I hear you. So basically, you're narrowing it down. So you think a way to contribute, regardless of the whatever the political situation is just pinning it down, just honing in on just helping people directly,
Yeah.
and forget about the noise as far as like how the
Yeah.
country is set up, or
Yeah.
wherever
I
that
think.
African is, wherever they are from.
Yeah.
So regardless of the political situation, be able to help people directly, right?
Yeah. We gotta figure out a way to be able to help the people, so that they can help themselves as
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
and that's key right there, because sometimes over here you have programs that have scholarships for, underprivileged kids and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They have the
Hmm.
talent, they
Yes.
want to learn, and they come in, but because the rest are paid for that, or there's money put aside for that, right?
Hmm.
And obviously back home, it's a struggle for everyone, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. For
the
most,
ones
yeah.
that have it aren't a lot. The ones that
Yes.
don't have it are a
That's
lot,
true. That's true.
right?
And that's why we're talking in general.
Yeah.
We're talking
So
for the masses,
right.
and we know I think we should pinpoint too. There are things that are that governments are responsible for, that
Mm-hmm.
you as an individual in helping people directly will want to tap into or will need to use. If, for instance, just off the top of my mind, I'm thinking about uh, healthcare, for instance, right?
Right.
This is a big one.
Yeah.
So you are on the health side of things. If you had a client right now
Mm-hmm.
that is in Gambia and you're using technology to help them, with whatever they're doing, and God forbid something happens to them that needs that level of medical attention, that you right now living in this your adopted country, how much that can help that person. Like, hey, call 911. Somebody will pick you up right now as I'm training you and you fell and collapsed. I'm getting dark here, but it's important to this.
Right.
Call 911 right now because you look like such and such is happening to you. You need quick medical attention.
Right.
So this is mostly not something that's privatized. This is important for governments to provide, right? The person first tells you, there's no, how long have you been away? There's no 911, right? And they tell you, all right, let me call somebody that I know,
Right.
and they call, and this is actually something that happened. That's why I'm taking that example.
Oh.
Call like somebody that knows the number, call an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is a village community ambulance. They called and got the ambulance driver,
Yeah.
who said, well, there's no gas in the car, there's no fuel in the,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and I can't get you. So they had to get a cab and get the person, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, let's bring this back to you. You're working with a client that needs that kind of attention and they don't have it. So even though you've directed your help to individuals, there's the government aspect of things that you can't do anything about. How frustrating will it be, knowing the knowledge that you know, and knowing that this is the kind of help that people should be having, that they don't get at all, from that continent.
I mean, it's devastating, even to think about it. It's wild. But again, when we were growing up, there was no ambulance, there was no 911 calls. So I already know.
Yes.
Ground, right? I already know what to expect.
Yeah. And I give that as an example because now how speed is necessary for an instance like that, right?
Yeah.
So that is knowledge now.
100%.
Going back to when you didn't even know that, and so you'll be resourceful in helping that person.
Yeah.
Now it's easy for you to think that this is what you deserve, this is what you should be getting, and they don't
Yeah.
have it. And it's not something that individuals provide, it's something that government has to provide.
Right. But when it comes to that, that's not even something that I want to touch on, because that's a whole different world, right?
Right.
Now, and what I'm in control of is to make sure that whether you're general population, that means somebody who's not an athlete that I'm training, right? Their assessments that I do, both with them and the athlete, their assessments that we do that makes us know how far we can take you, how far we can push, yeah? And for that, we'll have all the instruments, all the equipment, around us to make sure that we don't take you further than what you are, what you're supposed to do, basically. So your threshold will be not, we'll know your threshold, right? And so as far as taking you to the other side, no, it's not gonna happen. I mean, knock on wood, like with technology now, it's gonna be very hard for us to push you. You have to be really someone who's really ignorant, pardon my language, to just ignore all the signs, everything that's happening.
No, and I don't want to hit on that point too much, because it was just hypothetical. And what I wanted to bring awareness to is infrastructure and the stuff that government and higher powers within a country setting are responsible for, that you can't do anything about, right? And it doesn't even have to be just the health side. It can be somebody in another line of business, say logistics, for instance, because there's different professionals. You're on this end, somebody that wants to do some sort of business that requires, logistics and moving around. If the roads are not there, if the road network and infrastructure is not in place, 100%. They can't run their business, without that, and that will be beyond them, because they can't set up that infrastructure before they start their business. So that's basically the kind of point that I'm trying to make.
I mean, we all know that they need to do better. Way better.
Exactly. Exactly. And the reason why I bring that up in this STEM2Roots kind of setup or conversation is the various reasons that I've heard from people in different professions that want to go back home, the continent of Africa, and help out or expand on what they know. And they keep looking at things things keep coming up that is beyond their power. So in your case, there's a lot of consultation that can be as helpful as actually you working with the person. Just letting them know something that they didn't know. That doesn't take much, Now everybody has a cell phone. Even from a call, from a video call, from a WhatsApp call, you can actually impact somebody, right? If it's somebody in another line of business, that might be different, right? And that's the point that I'm trying to make. So so you have some of the tools.
I do.
And I'm sure, and I know this for a fact, that you're already working on stuff that you're going to do to help out. And I want to touch on another reason. Actually, not another reason. It's the same one I want to talk about, because you're on the health side. I've spoken to a few people that have this concern, about, hey, if I go home right now, right, I feel like there's a lot of risk that I'm taking as far as anything happening to me, that needs and requires coming back to that, health side. Like I'll be far away from, the kind of help I'll need if something was to happen to me. Do you hear that as a professional on that side? So now I'm talking about the clients that you have here, right? That think about going back home. Is that something you hear at all?
So the clients I have, they're already established over here. So and I don't ever, those conversations have never come up.
Okay.
There's only one that talks about being tired of being in the matrix. The matrix is the US system.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
But those that know. So
Yeah.
anyways,
Those that know. Yeah. Yeah.
he talks about going back to South America, but it's his daughter that's keeping him here, but he's tired of the system and he wants to go back. Now, for the others, some are from Pakistan, some are from, Europe and stuff. They are settled here. They're definitely not talking about going home at all. And these are, these are people that are very well set over here. Yeah. Right? Now, as far as the young athletes that I deal with, most of them are kids. Some are just entering into their professional life.
Yes.
So for them, they have tunnel vision. It's making it,
yes.
And some of them, this is their first year into the professional world. So there's no talk about A, B, and C. It's just the route that we were at, trying to hit, get to our dream goal. And it's like, you can't even think of anything else. It's just, tunnel vision. Yeah, I had tunnel vision and just walk at what's ahead of you, right? And I'm touching this a little bit because for us, we couldn't even see this other side of the tunnel, the light at the end, right?
Yeah.
We couldn't see that at some point, but yeah. So there's no talk about, coming back home or giving back to,
I hear you.
BSC.
And so you mentioned something that takes me exactly where I wanted to go to wrap this up. Okay. Which is now going all the way back, right? So we've talked about what you do, how established you are in what you do here, after 18 years of being away from home, right? If we are to go all the way back to, actually, I'll even go all the way back to high school, because that's right around when we started forming this mentality of, what that next step will be as far as like success, as far as like, prosperity, as far as like just, quote unquote, making it.
Yeah.
How did you think about your country versus leaving your country right around high school, where these conversations start, with friends and, people around you? How were you thinking about, your country versus, another foreign place, for instance, the US? How's that conversation formulated around you?
Oh man, it was everything. That was you moving forward. That was you getting a higher education. Nothing was talked about having a higher education in Gambia or anywhere else. US or England was the target, right? And that's where, we could achieve everything and anything. And that's because that's how the programming was, right? Hey, you gotta do high school, and then after that, boom, boom, boom. So that was all that was talked about, and people that wanted to go overseas, because it said overseas is where I can make it. Can't make it here, right? Because the previous, you see our parents, most of our parents that went overseas, whether it was to work or it was to further their education, they came back, right? They came back. My dad's friends and my dad and my mom's friends, they came back, right? Whether it was you in Ghana or Sierra Leone or whatever the case may be, Scandinavian countries, whatever, you came back, right?
Yeah. But what did you see when they came back? What, as far as like, what did they gain after they came back? What did you see in as far as difference goes in their lives?
I mean, I think at that time there was more unity amongst everybody else. There was a sense of community. There was a sense of helping one another. So did
it put them at a better place to help?
Yeah, it did. For some, it did. Yeah. He came back, set up shop, a whole 9 years. I think we just had to have that momentum, but unfortunately, it all boils back down to the government. So it brings us back to what you were talking about, as to if they do their part, then people would more and more be, more listening to come back and
Yeah.
and put back into the country.
And this is important. I take you there because we had similar childhoods, and like as far as how we think at home, not a lot has changed because we have friends and siblings and other people at home that still have that mentality of the only way, not even as an option, but the only way to make it is to leave the country. And the reason why that's important to talk about is, and that has not changed. For a fact, that has not changed.
Unfortunately,
is that we are set up in a way where they've seen enough of an example of people that leave the country, come back with something that seem like they've made it more than they would have if they stayed. Obviously that's not a fact for everybody, but that happens a lot. And so we are built part of, and we should make this clear, that part of what is actually deemed success is leaving the country. Okay, such and such, and we know we come from communities, right? Such and such, like they will talk about our parents, or they will talk about a parent and say, such and such kid left to the US, to the UK, to Australia, to whatever, to anywhere in Europe. Oh, and there's admiration in that because that is actually a measure of success. And this is something that, you can't force to change, but it's something that when they see results, for the most part, is actually something that make them accomplish something that somebody that didn't travel actually accomplished. Obviously not the case every single time. Right. And this is why we tie this to government, we tie this to what opportunities are presented to our people versus somebody that is away from the country and now thinking about going back home, right? So this triangle is actually what the issue is.
The Western world is not what it seems, just that's just a fact. So whereas some might come here and make it, from our parents or from percentage of those that make it off the bat. Like when I say off the bat, I'm talking about coming in here within 2 years, boom, boom, 3. It's not a high percentage, man. It's not. And there's a lot of struggle behind it. People see the pictures and the videos, and you think it's.
Especially with social media now,
Oh yeah. Especially with social media. I mean, don't believe what people post all the time.
And you're making my point for me, and that's what I wanted to point out, right? Bring it to yourself, right? This is something now after all these years, right? That's why I went all the way to high school. When you were in high school, or when you were attempting to leave to travel, was that something you knew?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. I just thought, you come here and everything is nice and dandy.
Exactly. And that's the point I'm trying to make, because this has not changed. After all these years, we experienced it ourselves. This is like the conversation around us in high school, and we are all pushing to figure out how to make it out, and literally make it, because we deem leaving as making it, right? And there's a lot of us that, you travel, you leave the country, and you go in a new place, a foreign place, and now you're almost having to restart again. You have to set up yourself, and it takes longer than it should for anybody, because now you all of a sudden you're in conflict with your age and timing and stuff that you wanted to do at a certain time. All of that changes because you went to a new place that has systems set up, to actually stop you from that, fast pace for a while, because you have to, document yourself. You have to, some people that go to European countries that don't speak that English that they learned, that there's actually a time that is set for you to learn the language
Hmm.
master the language before you can get into any sort of profession or certain professions. So,
Right.
so
Right.
all of these factors actually, yeah, we know this now, but
Hmm.
it's very hard just to tell you how much seeped in it is in the
Hmm.
minds of just people of our continent.
Yeah.
That hey, because you'll have somebody as close as forget a friend, like a family member that's a sibling, and you're telling them what you know now, and still they want to find out for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's not a lot you can do about that, but
No,
continue
absolutely
having the
not.
conversation.
You
Yeah,
could, yeah, you could tell your story all you want, but if the mind's not ready to receive the message, it's not going to be received.
that's right.
Understand? So
That's right.
for those people, I think it's going to be like that until you know the currency gets stronger.
Hmm.
People have jobs, and there's more creativity amongst people. There's more room to grow, etc. Right? Because as long as you can come here and do any job and be able to send money and build back home and do, it's going to be hard to turn around to someone and say, "Hey, don't come here," because hey, you know what? Suffering over here
Yeah.
and making either $10 an hour and
Yeah.
being able to send half of that back home
And be able to
and
do
and
something with it. Yeah.
and do something with it is
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
me suffering back home.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
the
it just
hustle,
depends on
the
the
hustle in
willpower.
a well-established country like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
face it,
yeah.
in a well-established country like the US, the hustle here
Right.
and having somebody tell you I'm hustling,
Mm-hmm.
name any African country. These
Yeah.
are two different hustles as far
Yeah.
as what they're able to tap into,
Completely.
right? And this
Completely.
is just again as we close, this brings us
Completely.
all the way back to the part that we don't want to talk about a lot, the politics and the governments and the
Yeah.
setup and
Yeah.
the things that
Mm-hmm.
individuals don't have control of,
Yeah.
right? So it is what it is, and part of what we want to bring about, like to people's awareness, especially with this platform, with this podcast, is actually bring up these conversations so that we'll talk about it, so that we'll think about solutions, so that as the more we have this conversation, the more we know, all right, this is something that we are all facing as people leaving Africa and going, into the diaspora, so that we will be able to, like, from all these conversations and different experiences, pick up solutions and ways ahead and ways to, like, bring about that kind of change that we know is necessary, because not everything is what it seems like,
Yeah.
right?
And everything that glitters is gold, man.
And and the US and Europe glitters so much when you're home. It glitters, especially with social media now.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my God,
Yeah. But I
yeah,
mean, for it, it's hard, man. It's
yeah.
hard because
It
I want
is.
to sit here and tell
It
people like,
is.
hey, just stay home, do this,
No,
da, da, da,
no,
da,
no.
because
That's a fact. Yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah,
Everybody has their
yeah,
own path, and
yeah.
we're here today because we took that path, right?
And
But
that's
what I
why we're
would
sitting
say,
here having this
the
conversation. Yeah.
message, yeah, the message I would tell people is our path was difficult, but
Uh-huh.
we kind of had a foundation to kind of give us that 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 head start. You understand what I'm saying? Meaning,
Mhm.
when we came here, we knew automatically, like, okay, hey, we're coming here for school, so A, B, and C has to be in place.
Right.
And what I keep on thinking, where my mind keeps going to, is the day when we went to get our social security numbers. Like,
Yes.
if we did not get that,
Yes.
if the school at the time was not like,
Yes.
okay, hey, you guys have a work grant, so you need to
Yes.
go get social security numbers so you can
Yeah.
work on
Yes.
campus.
Yes.
If we did not get that, we were talking about a different story.
Life would have been different.
Yeah, it
So
would
that's
have
it.
been completely
Systems,
different
and
for us,
yeah,
right?
you're
And
100%
now
right.
they don't
Yeah.
give social security to students and stuff like that. Things have changed,
Changes.
but
Mhm.
again, technology kind of gives you, some form of an access to certain things, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But the one thing that I would say is, like, for people back home, my parents, I stayed at home for after high school for like 3 4 years, I think, right? Everybody that I knew had left, came back, had left again, right? 4 years, because some of my friends were in senior college before I left, right? So, and then from there, I went to Senegal for school. You know, a lot of people don't know this, but this is the thing. Like, just don't bother your parents because they're not in the position to put you elsewhere. Like,
Yeah, when they're not, yes.
when they're not, they're
Yeah.
not, man. You know, even when they seem like they are, dude, your path is your path.
Yeah.
You just gotta know what you want and then work towards it. Like, I understand, like, the whole, but
yeah, I hope people hear you, dude. That's a lot to talk about because we're talking about a topic that is so broad, and almost sensitive for others, that you can't touch on everything. So what I want to do at this point as I close is, if I say it myself, dude, you're an interesting character. Where can people find you to see what you do, what you're able to provide for them? Like, where can people find you if they want to know more about Babakar as the personal trainer, Babakar as the, health and conditioning coach, Babakar as the person who is studying nutrition and learning how to be able to help? Where can people find you?
Nutrition and natural medicine, but we'll touch on that further on.
See what I'm saying? Interesting character. Okay, where can people find you?
But yeah, you can find me on Instagram. We're building that now. Babs Formation, BABSFORMATION. And then you can catch me on same name, Snapchat. Website will be babsformation.com. There'll be a lot of information up there. We're building that as well. And then most importantly, right now, the app is out.
Your app is beautiful. Got it. And I'm going to link all of that. Yes.
Right. So same thing. You could have it on Apple or your Android phones, Babs Formation. And it'll
Got
come
it.
up. Okay. And we'll try and have as many programs as possible to help everybody. We'll be teaching you how to eat as well and how to train from the basics, forget about the YouTube videos and stuff like that. Yeah, back to basics. It's just, very simple, and just follow along and build up from there. Because my main focus is to help those that can't help themselves, or to give you knowledge that you can build a solid foundation on and build off from there. Whatever you do after that is on you, but
at least you'll get the knowledge.
At least you'll get the basics. The basics are very, very important. Very, very important.
That's why you are important to this conversation, and this is why I brought you on. So hopefully people will pick up everything that you've just mentioned, and go follow you and see what you do, because guaranteed it will help every single one of them or somebody that they know. So thank you very much for gracing this occasion. Dude, you promised that you will come, and here you are. So thank you. And hey, we'll talk to you soon, because I know we have a lot more to talk about.
Yes. So thank you.